Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales, proudly presented by Membrane. This podcast is your gateway to mastering the craft of modern selling. If you're passionate about growth, impact, and unlocking full potential in sales and revenue, you're in the right place. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And now let's get started with today's guest. Hey, everybody. If you run EOS, tune in. If you're a CEO, a VP of sales, a sales manager, a salesperson in a company that runs EOS, do not miss this episode. Today, we're talking with Walter Crosby. He is CEO of Helix Sales Development, author of a great new book, and he's really focused on helping EOS companies ignite growth across their organization. Let's get into it with Walter. Walter, welcome, man. How you doing?
Doing well. How about you, Paul?
I'm doing great. I have this reading that I've been doing recently. I've had this book I haven't been able to put down. It's been amazing.
Wow. The Bible?
Well, that one definitely. This 50 Shades of Grey was another one, but the third one we got this Inside Out. Inside Out. So congratulations, man. You wrote a heck of a book.
I appreciate the kind words and the stretching of the truth that you couldn't put it down.
I haven't actually. And then I gotta mention this. I was reading it, and anybody that knows Walter knows he loves cigars, but I'm sitting here reading it and I'm being reminded of Walter in a number of ways. But the first thing is because you must have, when you were packing this thing up, you must have had a really good cigar and thrown it in, because I could smell
the
it.
Copy you got?
Yeah, because I could smell it on here.
That's funny. Nobody else has commented on that. I have them in a box on the other side of my office. In my office, I can smoke cigars. I didn't realize that was that bad. I went to a quarterly one time and I handed out paperwork right before I did my thing. And one of the guys I handed it to picked it up and put it in his face. I'm like, why are you smelling paper? He's like, it smells like cigars. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's that.
It's actually got a really nice, I don't know, man. You smoke good cigars. You smoke really good for the most part.
For the most part, I put it this way. I try not to count up how much money is sitting in the two humidors over there. Somebody asked me in front of my wife the other day, how many cigars I have. And I'm like, quite a few. And they pushed me for a number, and she heard the number. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I get nervous if I get close to 500 cigars. I mean, it's, could run out. She did not find that funny.
Oh, I do. That's awesome. That's awesome. But I have the hot sweats if you get to $4.99.
Yeah, well, I have it organized. I can visually okay, I just got a box sent to me today, so it's good to go.
Well, since you had to support the cigar habit, we now know why you wrote the book, but tell us the other reason, just kind of the overall premise of the book and why you decided on that.
Well, I mean, I think, to be honest, it's not one of those books that you write for, to be like a New York Times bestseller and to sell millions of copies. To me, it's a marketing tool to help people understand how I think about particular problems. And this particular problem it's to help business owners, those entrepreneurs, the ones that drive this country, the economy, to help them, those that are running on the Entrepreneurial Operating System, that it's a great operating system. EOS does a great job. The VTO, the vision, the three uniques, all those things really help that entrepreneur put structure around their business, grow their business, put the right processes there. L10s are great, some really great tools. And I've worked with a lot of companies that run EOS, and I've learned in the trenches with these guys yelling at me like, you're not being transparent, you're not being open, right? You're not following the structure of an IDS. So I learned, but as I was working through this, it felt like the sales team was sort of on the outside looking in. Right? They didn't necessarily fit. They're following meeting structures and their culture fit, but they're just not getting what they need out of it. So, we integrate the sales team into your EOS systems is what we're trying to do. And that's what this book describes, ways to do that, ways to think about things in a different way to help. Because salespeople got to go on the outside of your business, right? And, Membrane's a great tool. It's the best software CRM, that in that space. It's the best one out there. But nobody cares about it being the best. They care about solving problems for them, right? Before you do a demo, you try to figure out what they're struggling with, and then it's the same thing. We got to go out and talk to people as a salesperson, go talk to prospective buyers. And they don't care about your VTO. They don't care about your vision. They certainly don't care about your 3 uniques. So, they have to go out and tell a story. And I think that's where we step in and help them integrate into the process. And this they can do themselves. All the deets are inside the book.
After reading it, I boiled down kind of the thesis, my thinking about it, not to kill your marketing around, but it applies more than to just EOS companies. I think if you really start to think about it, there's so many companies out there, and EOS is really good at this. That is that internal process, defining that language, being really, really sharp on that to be able to execute, and get stuff done. And sales, you're right, sales doesn't fit that mold, right? It does, but it doesn't. I mean, we've tried to make a standard sales process where this just happens, right? Where it's all percentage based and it just is going to fit the mold and we're nail these things. But there's some challenges with, and you outlined in this book, there's some challenges with the way most people set up a standard sales process. Can you dive into that?
Well, at a really basic level, if you allow your salespeople to define what that process is and what that methodology looks like, you're going to get, a pitch and chase kind of a situation. Salespeople, take the 5% of the elite salespeople out of the mix, right? Because they have a process that they follow. But most of us have this tendency to start talking about what we do. I was coaching a salesperson this afternoon, and he just wanted to talk about what they do. And I'm like, they don't care yet. You got to figure out if there's a problem there, right? Is it a compelling problem? Is there urgency there? So we have we recommend folks have this base process that hits all of the notes, and then we customize it for somebody, right? That based on their world, their language, their pieces, right? But the basic structure is always there. Do they have a problem that you can solve? Is that problem compelling? Do they care about it enough to do something? Is there urgency? Do they have money to solve their problem? Which is often a big issue. And then how they're going to make decisions, right? You need to figure all this out before you go out and start pitching and giving proposals or in software doing demos. So it's really putting that buyer first and taking them on a journey through your process where they feel, that buyer feels like they're getting the information that they need so that they can make a good decision, right? This is a journey that we should be taking together, shoulder to shoulder, walking down the path. And either party should be able to say, I'm out, right? This doesn't work. And the sooner we figure that out, the better. But that's what we're looking to do, qualify somebody and then figure out if they really have the resources and if we're talking to the right people and that we got the criteria down. So we like to think of it as, instead of just pitching and chasing like they did in the 70s, 1970s, I'm old, but I'm not 1870s old. It's almost. About thinking of, yeah, almost. But it's thinking about how we can help that buyer feel comfortable and help that buyer get what they need to be able to navigate it. And if we do a really good job, we should be helping them think about their problem differently than they already are, and bringing up things that they hadn't thought about and thinking about how that's connected to another piece. In your world, that's it's not hard. It's not easy, but it's not hard, right? Because there's so many moving pieces. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Your tool allows so much flexibility to do whatever somebody needs to do. It's really figuring it out. You can't just go like, I got all these cool features, and then start pitching the features when they only care about two things. If you solve those two big problems, boom. The David Sandler used to talk about that electric typewriter that he went out to buy. And all he wanted was it to be electric, and that he wanted the backspace button that would white things out. He wanted to automatically white it out. So he went into a typewriter store, and the guy was like, here, let me tell you about all the things we can do, and you can program it. And he walked out of the store and never bought it. He went down the street to another store, and the guy's like, what are you looking for? He said, I want this. He's like, okay, we can do that. What else do you want? He goes, I don't care. That's what I want. He's like, all right, we'll do this. And he bought the typewriter because the guy didn't confuse him. So give them what they want, give them what they need, right? Make them think about these issues to make sure there's nothing else there.
And you're calling this the buyer first pivot. And this is in relation to what we've seen a lot over the last 20 years, and which I kind of say this has become the standard sales process dilemma, which is, okay, very first step is we're going to call them up, we're going to qualify them to a meeting, and then we're going to give them a demo, and then we're going to send them a proposal, and then we're going to assign them on the dotted line, right? And those are become our measurables, and that's just how we operate, right? When in the real world, there has been a ton of pushback on sales trying to make that a standard process, because everybody is building that. Everybody has built a similar process. So people are pushing back on it like crazy. They're like, this doesn't serve me as a buyer. So what are the core things in that buyer first pivot? Like, you talk about two very specific parts of the sales process that you have to have in the book in making that buyer first pivot. How do you start to do that?
Stop focusing internally on yourself and what you have and what you want to talk about. You got to get that buyer to engage and share what's on their mind. Get them to talk about their problem. Get them to share their thoughts. We should be listening to their issues. So we're really looking to sound different than what everybody else does, right? And if we're not sounding different, then we fit into the mold where they should just hang up on us, right? We want to be different. We want to make sure that buyer feels like somebody's finally listening to them and asking them questions, right? So that's one of the big pieces. I mean, you read the book. What was your takeaway on that piece of it? Like, what do you think?
You talk about overcoming the messaging muddle. That's brilliant. But it's interesting when you start to take away that very first call of the goal of that first call is not to pitch and get commit to a first meeting. Even on a first meeting, the goal of the first call has to be completely different. That conversation has to be focused on, what is the core things that are happening in the buyer's world, and then if, when, and how it makes sense to commit, right? And it makes a complete difference in how you're responded to. Like, I'll tell one story. I got a call the other day. I got two calls the other day. One of the calls was very similar thing. Hey, are you facing this, and this? We have a great software that you don't even listen to those anymore. Right. But I got a wonderful call that said, hey, I noticed you wrote about this on, and I picked it up, and he's like, I noticed you wrote about this on LinkedIn. I'm calling to reach out because we're focused really in a similar area. I don't know if that makes sense, if it makes sense to have a conversation, but I'd love to understand more about what you're trying to get at. And I was like, I love talking about myself, so sure, I'll talk about that all day.
Sure.
But it was it was just that buyer first pivot that started at the beginning, instead of the, like, just here's our three, like, this is what we do and how we do it, book a meeting.
You said it, like, everybody wants to talk about themselves. Everybody has an agenda. And I think that's part of the psychology that we need to work with when we're talking to a buyer. They don't want to be sold to. They want help, maybe. Maybe, right? What are we trying to figure out when we get on that first call? Do they have an issue that they want to solve that we can help them with? And if there isn't one, next. And it's sounding like you're not sure that they have that problem, and helping them help convince you that they need help. That's part of the psychology of this. It's not just like, let me tell you why we're great. That hasn't worked for a long time, but people have continued to do it. Salespeople have continued to do it. Sales leaders and sales managers have continued to have them pitch. And then you just start chasing people, and then it becomes a commoditization of what it is you do. So like, think about who that buyer is, what their problems are. And if you don't know that they have the problems, then you probably shouldn't be calling on those type of people. You're not calling on one person companies. Like, that's not your ICP of, for membrane. But we want to be talking to people that might be a good fit for us. But we're really trying to figure out, can we help them? Because if they can't, next, please. I don't want to keep wasting time.
You do this. You have a concept in the book called the Sifter message, which I love because it's very anti. I don't want to say it's anti three uniques, but it's because it leverages the concept of the three uniques just in a very different way, right? So what is the Sifter message?
Think of it as the company sales story. So if you've got 5 salespeople, if you have 5 salespeople and you turn them loose and you just say, hey, we got this cool widget, go sell it, right? And you tell them about the whistles and bells, features and benefits, then they're going to go out and they're going to start telling 6 different stories with 5 different people, right? They're just going to start talking, and they're going to start talking about those things. Salespeople need that story to tell. I call it a company sales story or a Sifter message. So we need to give them that. And that's the responsibility of the company. The entrepreneur, the business owner, the CEO. We have to give them the tools. They should be singing from the same hymnal, right? That we're all telling the same story the same way. Be authentic. Be who you are. Say the words the way you want to say it. It's like jazz, right? You're going to play all the notes. You need to play them in this key. But otherwise, go be yourself and sell it. So if they don't have that, they're just going to start pitching. So we think we should give them those tools, right? The base message, positioning statements, some basic templates on how to prospect, to do follow-up. If we're not giving them that information, they're not copywriters. Salespeople aren't. They barely can go have those conversations with people. Don't make it more difficult for them. Give them the information. So in the book, we talk about Sifter message, like that's created for the sales team. They get a playbook. Here's what you're likely to run into. Here's what your buyer cares about. Here's what they're afraid of, right? Both personally and professionally. Those things matter as they're real people.
You have a concept in this idea of the Sifter message as well, in terms of how you structure it. Is you focus on acknowledging the common ground, not instead of doing like focusing on the uniques, just on the uniques, but acknowledging a lot of the common ground, and then forcing your problem statement or the questions around the problems that they're having only on that 2% that's unique. How do you help companies do that and really kind of figure it? Because a lot of companies are out there, they're like, we are the best thing since sliced bread. Are you? And their uniques sound the exact same as their competitors.
Yeah.
Right. How do you help them shift to that idea of acknowledging, being transparent about the common ground, and then focus their questioning on the core uniques?
Well, I'll answer by we use the Sifter message concept to solve that for the customer. But I'll give you an example. I once sold something that was a commoditized. Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted to buy it. They were forced to because of codes. And I was a small family-owned business that I worked in. And we competed with these little companies like Siemens, Honeywell, and Tyco on a daily, weekly basis.
Small companies.
Yeah. So what I would do, and it took me a while to figure this out, but I was honest with the buyer. I would say something like, Paul, what I do and what Siemens, Tyco, and Honeywell do exactly the same. 98% of what they do and what I do, exactly the same. It has to be, right? Because I sold fire alarm systems. So when somebody pulls the thing, the flashy stuff goes off and the noise goes, right? If somebody smoke detector goes off, the flashy things in the nose go off. It all has to work that way. We have codes. So can we talk about the 2% that might make us different? And then I would just pivot to what they cared about. And I would have 3 different buyers for the same deal, and each had different things that they care about. So I would ask a question that related to their problems. And they all of a sudden they relaxed. They're like, oh, well, he realizes that they are the same. So what do I care about that's going to make a difference? We were never the cheapest. Didn't want to be. Right? So we would address that 2%. And that's what companies can do. If you tell people we're the best, like, yeah, okay, yeah, so that's what the last guy said, right? You're just going to sound you're going to sound like a salesperson, and they're going to tune you out. So go the other way.
Yeah, I have been. It gave me words. That actually gave me some words to explain some of the reasons, some of the things that we've been doing this year, which I love is a lot along those same things. Like, okay, you're looking for a growth platform, a CRM, again, 98% of this is you're dealing with database tables and connection and that type of stuff. And now let's find out what is really important to you, like, and dive in. Because then we can talk about the things like, is a sales process actually important to them? Do they want to do, is consistent delivery of product actually important to them? And it's stuff that for us is a no-brainer, right? That's where we really shine and are really good. But if they're saying, well, no, that's not important, it's like, okay, thank you very much. It was wonderful to talk to you, but it looks like we don't. I mean, and that is also something with this Sifter message that it gets you, that is goes against the grain, is it can qualify early,
Right.
and often. And when working with sales managers and salespeople, how do you find them reacting to that idea of, I can let something go if I truly, if I do this right, I can let it go sooner. Like,
Well, it's real simple. If you're going to get a no, when do you want to get it? After you've spent all this time, put in all this work, put your proposal on the street, put your dollars on the street. Do you want to get it after all that, or do you want to get it early before you've wasted a lot of time? Right? So the sales managers and sales leaders have trouble with that. But we're talking to the CEO and that business owner, and they get the idea of wasting time. But what they don't get, and this is where the Sifter message comes into play, is that founder, that entrepreneur, they have all of this stuff in their head. They understand. They've been great at selling because they care and because they've got all of this knowledge in their brain. So they know how to ask the questions and position the product. Salespeople don't. And that entrepreneur usually doesn't know how to transform that information. So we just stick a straw in their ear and pull it all out, right? And facilitate this and then give it back to them. They're like, yeah, that's what we do. Like, okay, great. So then we're just going to teach your salespeople how to use this. And they're like, well, that's what I've been doing. Like, yeah, I know, but you couldn't get it out of your head. So here's what we've done. And that's a normal thing for, most entrepreneurs and CEOs, that they do something naturally. And because you do it naturally, it's really hard to facilitate that to your team. Michael Jordan would have made an awful coach, right? One of the best basketball players to ever put on gym shoes. But to take what he did naturally and what he expected of people, coaching, he could coach on the court, but he wouldn't have been a great coach on the sidelines because he just would have been too frustrated. And entrepreneurs are similar to that, right? They're really, really good on the court, but being able to translate that and coach their people and set it up so that the rest of them can move forward, that's usually a blind spot, and it's not their fault.
Well, it's one of the reasons that EOS is so strong operationally and in like within the company and within companies, and why I personally, I love the system, but I also think it's what you're adding to this and what you're diving in. And helping to clarify is incredibly important for that founder, that owner, to understand that there is more. Like for that revenue engine, there's a little bit more that we can build on EOS, but there's just a little bit more that we've got to focus on. So somebody in that, if somebody's in that area and they're an EOS company, they're searching for revenue growth, how do they reach out to you and find you? Talk this through.
I mean, the book's on Amazon, Inside Out, Walter Crosby, but they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Thank you. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm there on a regular basis, if not every day. That's a great place to figure out what's going on in my head and what I'm thinking about. Just ping me there. And, my website, helixsalesdevelopment.com. I mean, those are the two simplest ways to reach out. But if you get the book, it gives you everything you need to be able to start to sort this. It'll give you what the way you need to think about this and start to structure it. Maybe you need help. Okay, we're happy to help. But it'll give you that foundation so you can start talking to your team. Because what often happens with the sales team is that they need to change what they're doing. And you've been doing sales long enough, Paul, that whenever you ask somebody to change what they're doing, they usually lose their mind.
Yes, they
it's
do.
Not my show, so I'm going to keep my language clean.
Well, and we did focus. So we focused on a number of things here, but is there anything else that you want to pull out and make sure that we cover before we close down the show for today?
The same thing applies to sales hiring, right? Usually talent is a problem, and we talk about what needs to be done there. Starting in January, I'm going to be offering a coaching program for the CEO's team to help them become more effective at hiring talent and discerning. So it's attracting, qualifying, and then selling your salespeople. Right? We don't sell.
You put out a great post on LinkedIn the other day. I think it was titled that why you should not be selling to your salespeople or something along those lines when you're in the hiring process.
Right.
If you're on here, check out Walter on LinkedIn and check out that post when it comes to recruiting and hiring, because it was brilliant. I absolutely loved it.
I appreciate that.
And now I need to go wash. Yeah, I need to go wash down because I've complimented you way too much in this show.
It's very unnerving. It's usually not how our conversations go.
No. We'll have a cigar and then I'll insult you for a couple hours. It'll be good.
All right. I'll try to get down there on the 9th to do that.
All right. Cool. Well, all right, buddy. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, anybody listen to the show, reach out to Walter, especially if you're EOS implementers as well as people that are running EOS in the companies. Make sure you're reaching out to Walter and getting this book because the concept is awesome. It's beautifully written. It's a quick read. It's written at my level, which is good. It's a quick read and it gives a ton of great feedback and great things that you can implement. With that, why don't we sign off for today?
Appreciate the opportunity, Paul, as always.
You're very welcome, as always. All right, everybody, keep shining bright. Get out there, elevate the sales profession, do all the liking and sharing and all the things that you do, and we will sign off from the Art and Science of Complex Sales. Thanks so much.